Gateway Greening is an organization helping to transform the landscape of St. Louis. That story next on City Corner. Steve Potter, and welcome to City Corner. Making St. Louis a greener place to live, that's what the organization Gateway Greening is all about, and here to explain that, please welcome Gateway Greening's Executive Director, that's Mike Sorth, and volunteer Connie Goss. Hi, welcome to both of you.
Thanks, Steve.
Mike, I think the organization's been around almost 30 years?
That's correct. That's correct. We've started as a community gardening and neighborhood improvement organization in the 80s.
But you've just been executive director fairly recently, correct?
That's right. I started in December of 2011 and have just hit the month mark.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
Connie, you're a volunteer.
Yes.
How long have you been involved?
This is my 5th year, to 2007.
And how did you become involved?
Well, I was a teacher and I've been a gardener for a long time, and when I took early retirement from teaching, I couldn't wait to volunteer for Gateway Greening. I did the Master Gardeners program and started volunteering in, I guess, winter of 2007.
Mm-hmm. And have you found that?
Oh, I love Gateway Greening.
Why?
Oh gosh, it's so fun and it's so rewarding, and they do wonderful things and you meet wonderful people.
And doing things that need to be done, Mike?
Yes, we have 4 primary areas of focus that the organization tackles. The core of our programming is community gardening, which, as I mentioned, is how we began. That is working with community gardens started by St. Louisans all over the city and the metro area, really, and supporting their gardens through funding and technical advice and plant material. And we also have school gardens, which are very similar but are focused around school and youth opportunities. We also have some larger civic greening projects that we take on, as well as a urban farm that we operate.
Uh-huh. And you have it's interesting, you don't have a background in gardening as far as I know. Maybe you were a home gardener, but you had a career in banking?
Correct. I was an investment banker for about 15 years and recently decided I wanted to make a change and do something that helped my community and dealt more with people than just numbers and banking projects.
Well, what's your background in gardening then? You must have had some interest, something that drew you in that direction.
I did. I'm a home gardener, and I come from a long line of home gardeners, and I've told a story numerous times that spending time with my grandparents and my grandfather's large garden really not only taught me about where our food comes from and how it's grown, but it also provided those connections, intergenerational connections that are hard to replicate. And I think Gateway Greening is another example of gardening being used to create those human connections. Mine was with my grandfather in the garden. Gateway Greening's the opportunities they create are among neighbors and children and teachers.
Yeah, I have the same story. My parents never really gardened or anything, but my granddad always had a little patch, a few tomato plants, a couple of little corn, something like that, right? Do you live in the city, Connie?
No, actually I live in Clayton.
Uh-huh. What's gardening like in Clayton? Do all of your neighbors do that?
Not all my neighbors. I do have a neighbor who has about 20 tomato plants in pots on his driveway. And we have a lot of squirrels in Clayton, so that's that's a hardship of gardening.
Yeah,
squirrels in shade, probably.
It sure is. I even get a few deer where I live, but I'm not in the city either. Tell me about your garden.
My garden?
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, one of the things that happens, I think, as a result of volunteering with Gateway Greening and being around a lot of vegetable gardens is that I keep expanding my vegetable garden, and I recently ripped out some, misguided bamboo that I had planted, and I planted okra and tomatoes in its place, and peppers. So next year I've got some other areas that I'm going to pop in some more vegetables.
Bamboo is a nightmare.
It is.
You really shouldn't put it anywhere, should you?
No, you really
It's really
shouldn't.
hard to get out, but that's another story.
Right, right. Though I do think that the city might have some, enclosed patches that are surrounded by concrete that would be nice for some bamboo.
Bamboo will even break concrete up the wall.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's what I thought. Mike, what is really the need as you see it? And I guess maybe we should define the term when we say community garden. What do we really mean by that?
Sure. The soul of community gardening is neighbors coming together to repurpose an underutilized piece of ground on their neighborhood or on their block. Gateway Greening has found that not only do these gardens provide a place for neighbors to socialize and a source of locally grown food for neighbors, it also becomes a stabilizing force in the neighborhood or on the block. It also helps in matters of health and active living to have the garden there as this center of community.
So does Gateway Greening work primarily in the city limits?
We do, and the primary function, or the most involved function we have with community gardens, is the providing of funding for improvements that they'd like to make. But as I mentioned earlier, we also provide expertise. We have a number of staff members that work with our community gardens to help them grow not only their vegetables, but their size and their impact in their neighborhood.
Well, let's talk about funding for a minute since you bring it up. You have a relatively small budget in the scheme of things, right?
We do. We're just under $1 million a year organization. Again, we divide that budget up among 4 programming areas, so each area has to make do with what they have and make good use of it. I would say that the biggest areas for growth that you'll probably see us entertain over the next few years are the youth gardens, dealing with teachers and schools to further integrate gardens into their curriculum. And then also the general area of urban agriculture is so hot right now, and there's such a need for locally grown food and for a discussion about where our food comes from that you'll see us using urban agricultural projects to accomplish those things.
Does funding come from multiple sources?
It does. We have grant funders, we have memberships that come from individuals, and corporate donations as well.
Well, the budget of your size, then volunteers like Connie must be very important.
They're critical to what we do. We have some of our larger urban greening projects, civic greening projects, may take as many as a couple hundred volunteers over the course of a weekend. So it's important to have folks come out and show us their green thumb, or even if they don't have one, grab a shovel and dig a hole.
Connie, do you also work with volunteers? Do you have any role in recruiting volunteers yourself?
Well, I'm part of the Master Gardeners Association of St. Louis, and so one of the projects that Master Gardeners can volunteer in is Gateway Greening. We have a lot of Master Gardeners that are involved, and in my church, we just applied for a grant with Gateway Greening, so I'm on both sides of it, and so and I'm always telling people about Gateway Greening, and yeah, I think we've gotten more people over time.
I'm wondering how hard to sell it is. You know, some people don't grow up having any background or experience doing it, don't know anything about gardening, maybe don't like it, I don't know. I always grew up in the dirt, but some people don't. So is that a hard sell?
I don't think so. One of the things that I see a lot of people that don't know very much about gardening who learn as they go, and you know, I've been gardening a long time, but you know, gardening is just so big that I don't know very much, and I've been doing it a long time, so everybody is always learning, and it's just a really, you know, there's wonderful people, and it's so much fun. You know, it's like anything where if you're doing it by yourself, you accomplish a little bit, but when you have a group, you accomplish a great deal. Right. And that's one of the really rewarding things, is to work a couple hours and look back and go, oh wow, look at all we've done. Yeah,
that's one thing about gardening I've always found exciting. It's one thing you can do in life where you see results of your work.
That's true.
You don't always see that in your job.
I think it's part of our culture here in St. Louis, as the Southern influence on who we are, as well as the various immigrant groups we've had come to St. Louis over the years, bring an agrarian background that I think is really part of who we are. It's in our backyard gardens as well as our community gardens.
We've got a couple of images to look at in just a second, Connie. You're involved, as I understand it, in 2 parts of Gateway Greening, Urban Roots and City Seeds. Mm-hmm. Do you want to explain what those are?
Well, Urban Roots is the program that yearly, I'm not sure how many years they've been doing it, but they plant ornamental plantings in downtown St. Louis and along Tucker and Market and Keener Plaza. They have some big pots that were designed and have been, they get planted every year. And then and I remember from when the All-Star game was here, they had a cardinal red theme, so every year it's got a different theme to it, and it really beautifies St. Louis. It makes you proud to be from St. Louis when it looks so like it's really cared for, and there's a big team of people involved. So if you went down there at the end of the growing season, there were some plants that were, 15 feet tall that started out as, probably a foot tall. So, and then City Seeds is the urban farm that is their partnership with St. Patrick's Center, and they work with, I think it's dual diagnosis, people with both chemical dependency and mental illnesses, and then they also, I think, have started working with veterans groups, and it's a wonderful, wonderful program. It's very rewarding to watch.
We have 5 images. Let's look at those now, and if both of you would just comment on what we're seeing. Gateway Greening.
This is the urban farm that Connie mentioned where City Seeds operates, and we provide job training and horticulture therapy to the St. Patrick's Center clients. It's sort of a view of downtown that people aren't very familiar with because it's on MoDOT right-of-way, roughly at 22nd Street.
And when you're in the garden, it's just a wonderful place. It's almost, it's magical. You don't realize when you're in a car driving by, but when you're there, and there's like a cistern, a water collection system that I think Eagle Scout project, and then all the structures I think have been over time put in, and it's I think a lot of volunteers. And then in the background you can see the vegetable garden, and that's a great place.
Let's go to the next one.
It's a beekeeper at the farm as well. We, in addition to the gardens and raised beds and small orchard that we have there, we keep bees as well.
Because?
Because bees pollinate the garden and give us honey.
Because was a little pun too. Let's go to the next one. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. There's somebody.
There was a client working in the garden.
Okay, I thought we had a few more images, no? Well, at least, Mike, before we go, why don't you tell me a little bit, this is important, I think, you have a relationship with the Missouri Botanical Garden.
We do. We are currently an affiliate of the St. Louis Botanical Garden, and our employees are garden employees and operate independently of the garden and are funded independently of the garden, but share some resources. And the garden is such a great institution in St. Louis. I think we've benefited greatly through that relationship over the years, both in terms of exposure and credibility.
And Connie, what would you say to other people out there watching right now that might want to get involved and help make St. Louis a greener place?
Well, just go on the website and get their phone number, contact them online. It's just a wonderful, wonderful, fun thing to do. You meet wonderful people, you accomplish a great deal, and one of the other things about Gateway Greening as a volunteer is there are a lot of places you volunteer where you don't get to do very much, and Gateway Greening is wonderful in just letting you really utilize your talents, and it's great fun, and it's wonderful to see what they do for St. Louis.
And Mike, one final question. You've only been on the job for a month. Long-term goals, what do you hope to accomplish?
We want to do more of what we do. It's not an organization that needs any change, any problems to deal with as I've came in the first month. It's all about serving the city of St. Louis and doing more of what we do. And again, in addition to the impactful things that we influence through our programs, we want to create discussions in the city regarding the source of our food and how it's grown and the security of our food as well.
We're going to have some contact information come up so people can check out your website and contact you if they want to volunteer or learn more about it. But continued success to you and best of luck in the future.
Thank you, and thanks for having us.
Mike Sorth is the Executive Director of Gateway Greening. Connie Goss is a volunteer, and we really appreciate you both being here.
Thank you.
And we have more on Gateway Greening after this. We'll be right back.
men and women of the United States Armed Forces, the USO is home. The USO depends on the generosity of the American people, people just like you. To find out how you can help, visit us at uso.org. The USO, until everyone comes home.
Did you vote in the last election? I know I would have. I'd want my voice to be heard. You see, the only way your ideas can count is for our elected officials to hear from you. My dad says it's easy. Just learn about the process and vote. So you have all this power to really make a difference. And you didn't take time to vote? Am I missing something?
Learn how to make your ideas count by logging on to www.representativedemocracy.org.
I'm Steve Potter, and welcome back to City Corner. Gateway Greening is an organization that's helping to transform the landscape of St. Louis by making St. Louis a greener place to live, which is a good thing. And we're going to continue now with a couple more volunteers. Please meet Bert Coleman. He is a community garden leader, and Liz Johnson, who is involved with a youth garden program and also the Herbert Hoover Boys and Girls Club. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Liz, let me begin with you. What's the relationship between Herbert Hoover Boys and Girls Club and Gateway Greening?
Our relationship with them, our partnership started about 4 years ago. We applied for a grant. We wanted to incorporate gardening into some of the programs and activities that we do at the organization. And so we applied for our first grant with Gateway Greening, and we were approved. And so from that, we took about 45 to 75 square feet and changed it from just a plain space into a 8-bed garden, rose garden, and a space for kids to learn how to grow and to be more active in their community.
And for those people who might not be familiar with the club, would you give us a little background on that?
Herbert Hoover has been around for almost 50 years. We are located at 2909 North Grand. We actually have 4 other sites. We serve over 3,500 kids every day, ages 6 to 18, through various programs dealing with job readiness, building better education, academic success. So our job is just to empower young people to be more successful adults for the future.
And gardening can help do that.
Yes, it can.
I'll ask you about that in just a minute. Bert, what's your background as a volunteer for Gateway Greening? How long have you been involved, and how did you get involved?
Well, I'm the leader of Fall and North Market Community Garden. It's located on Fall and North Market, of course. But it arose out of our block unit. We have a block unit that's affiliated with North Grand Neighborhood Services. We're involved with stabilizing the community through, well, right now there are a number of vacant lots, and one of the vacant lots was on Fall and North Market. So one day the block unit got together and discussed installing a community garden there.
So you live in the neighborhood?
Yes,
and
I
you
live
and
right
other,
around the corner from it.
And so you and other people that live there felt like community garden would help improve the neighborhood and bring people together?
Yes, and also the vacant lot, it was kind of like an eyesore. People would throw trash there and walk across it and walk their dogs there.
The neat thing about Gateway Greening, I think, is, you know, one thing St. Louis has is a lot of vacant lots.
Yes.
And while those can be problematic, if you're looking at it through your lens, it's an opportunity.
Right.
What do you think?
I agree. It's definitely an opportunity to, especially for youth, to get them to be more involved and to appreciate the areas and the spaces and be able to utilize them. So if you're teaching a young person how to take a space that has nothing on it, but teaching them how to plant plants and flowers and vegetables, and teaching them how to take care of it, how to water it, how to nurture it, and then to help them see the end result, which is to be able to grow fruit or vegetables there.
Liz,
So
did I understand you correctly? Did you say you started with the rose garden, though?
we did. We actually started with a flower bed, and our development director, Nancy Lammers, late Nancy Lammers, helped us get the garden, and so we named the garden after her after she passed. And so in her honor, we built a rose garden in the garden first, and then we put the 8 beds of vegetables down.
I always thought roses were one of the hardest things to do.
Actually, we've had a lot of success with them. They keep coming back year after year. If you take care of them and prune them and all those
They take a
good
lot of
things.
maintenance,
They
though,
do.
right?
They do. They
You
do.
have to feed them and...
They do, but they're well worth it. They're a very beautiful plant to grow. They're not very hard at all to grow, and we have a variety of that grow there.
Okay. Bert, what's involved in being a community garden leader? One point I think it's important to make is that Gateway Greening, I guess, helps, you help me with this. Gateway Greening sort of coordinates things, but it's really you guys, it's the volunteers that run the thing.
Well, I'll go back to the vacant lot. The process started with us applying for a grant through Gateway Greening, and once that was approved, our lot is 30 feet by 100 feet. We applied for 10 raised beds, and one Saturday, a dump truck arrived, and they dumped a pile of dirt. And we had volunteers from North Grand Neighborhood Service. There were maybe 30 young men and women, and also Gateway Greening. They brought a bunch of lumber. So we assembled 4 by 10 feet beds, filled them with dirt, and then they left. But after that, we were in the business of coordinating the activities of the garden. Gateway Greening, they also provided us with education and provided us with the seedlings and seeds that we actually planted in the garden. They informed us when to plant and what to plant.
I'm curious how much you have to plan activities out ahead of time. Can people just show up anytime and pull weeds or do what they want, or how specific do you have to be about showing up on this day and doing this particular task?
Well, this is our first year. The garden was established in 2011, and one of the ways that we planted the beds, we laid cardboard underneath the dirt, and that prevented some of the weeds from coming up. Mm-hmm. But ongoing, there may be a bigger weed problem. But
there's always a weed problem.
Yes.
In my garden, anyway. Liz, do you find that most kids are really interested initially in even learning about plants and growing things?
I would say yes, they are. Some kids are more interested than other kids, but once you take a kid out to the garden and actually show them where a tomato comes from or how to plant something that they've never planted before. This past summer, we actually grew corn and we grew pumpkins for the first time. So to have kids actually see a pumpkin that they may use for Halloween actually grow in a garden that they're a part of definitely piques their curiosity and their interest. And having them be a part of it, the hands-on, is the most important thing, helping them get down in the dirt and all of those things.
We have some images, Bert, I want you to talk about that we're going to see on the screen here that have to do with the community garden. And if you could just sort of tell us what we're looking at, what people are doing.
Okay, that's Bell Garden. It's called a hub garden. They provide education, a demonstration of how to plant things and when to plant them, how to harvest them, and also.
Okay. And here we have.
That looks like another community garden. It is what they call a raised. Oh, they're raised beds instead of planting the vegetables directly in the ground. Those were the beds that we assembled earlier.
They look very organized. Let's take a look at the next 2 images, if we could. We just have some people working. It looks like on flowers.
Yes.
Let's go to the last one. Just more work in the garden.
Yes.
And it's great to be outside. That's one thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Liz, let's look at some images. I believe these have to do with the youth garden, which you are involved in. I guess these would be kids with the Herbert Hoover's Boys and Girls Club.
Yes, these are volunteers and people that have helped us with the with helping us to get our garden, the beds into the ground and keeping our garden together. And these are also people that do, have their own individual gardens throughout the city of St. Louis too. So we all work together.
Let's go to the next one.
And these are a group of kids who are learning how to again, participate in the gardening. They're pulling up their harvest that they've worked so hard to plant.
And it looks like they're enjoying it.
They are. And then here's a group of kids that are learning to put the beds down. That's the dirt that's been delivered. And so they're all working together to get their raised beds together. And then there's a group of kids who are just really proud to be a part of the garden, working together. It builds better relationships among young people, teaches them leadership skills and how to work together as a group.
Bert, I think you told me that you've just been involved about a year. The garden you've been working with is about a year old.
Yes.
What do you think it's done, just judging from the way it looks in your neighborhood and the way your neighbors react to it? What do you think it's done for you?
Well, this has been a really amazing reaction. Before, you know, like I said, it was an empty lot. A lot of people would come by and litter it. But right now, when some of the gardeners are out working, you know, the people will stop and start a conversation, ask us what we're growing. And
So a lot of great benefits, not only aesthetically, but sort of helping the spirit of the community and bringing people together. I think it's a great thing. And great for
Exactly.
kids too, as you said, Liz.
Definitely,
Good learning and educational experience.
definitely.
Well, we're going to have some information, contact information on Gateway Greening come up, and we hope more people will get involved. I guess there's room for more volunteers.
Always. We're always looking for people to come and help our kids in our garden and help them transfer from gardening to nutrition programs too. So
Oh,
definitely.
great. Thanks so much for being here, both of you. It's a great thing. Keep up the
Thank
good
you.
work.
Thank you.
That's Liz Johnson and Bert Coleman, both volunteers with Gateway Gardening, and we hope that you'll help make St. Louis a greener place too. I'm Steve Potter. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.